Hello everyone, and welcome to our video presentation on IronCAD's top 5 new features in 2024 for mechanical fabrication designers. My name is RJ. I've been using IronCAD for 13 years in my design business, focusing on steel and sheet metal fabrication. Having used other software in my business prior to being introduced to IronCAD, I can say from personal experience that IronCAD has made my business much more productive. Seeing these advantages led me to become an IronCAD reseller for customers in this industry. So enough about me, let's get into the exciting features we will look at today. I'm extremely excited about this first feature. I will discuss the new linked part and assembly feature, which I use daily in my own designs. I'm looking forward to demonstrating how it works. The next enhancement we will examine is how to bring external files into a scene with different configurations of the part assembly design. With the introduction of this feature, we now have different options for inserting those files with different display states. After that, I will introduce our new sheet metal rapid quoting tool. This is a very useful tool for assisting in quoting sheet metal projects. Next, I will review an enhancement that was added to our unfolded sheet metal parts where features can be added and remembered in the flat pattern. For example, this is very useful for adding additional material that is required for rolled formed sheet metal. And finally, I will discuss some new enhancements to the 2D drawing environment. I'll start off first, thanking you for taking the time to watch this video presentation. Let's get started. So, as I mentioned, I am very excited about the new link part assembly feature, and there are quite a few options to demonstrate on this enhancement. For this video, I am going to use a platform I designed for a plant here in Georgia. They needed to add 3 more platforms to this already existing structure. First, let's talk about creating a linked part. To demonstrate this, I am going to copy this existing assembly over 71.5 inches. Now, I will take the base pad and set it to its necessary elevation. And finally, let's go ahead and lengthen our tube. Now, for this particular project, the base plates in the pit are being anchored with jack bolts. I already have a base plate for that design, so all I have to do is select the correct base plate using the Control left click, and while still holding down the Control key, I will also hold the Shift key and left click the base plate I want to change. Next, I will right click on the part and select the option to create link. Now, these pop-ups are just to let you know that some geometry may change or that the selected parts are in different parts of the scene tree. We can just click yes through these, and as you can see by the highlight, the 2 parts are now the same. One important note is to always select the correctly designed part first when making your selection. That will be the driving part when creating the links. And this feature will work on either parts or assemblies. As an example, I will use a bolt assembly for fastening. I commonly create catalogs for projects with the fastener lengths I know I will be using. However, as I drop these out, unless you are using the externally linked option, which kind of defeats the purpose of the single scene environment, these fastener assemblies will not be linked. And what you can run into further into the project is if you want to change a name or description, you have to do each one individually. With this new feature, we now have the option to right-click the catalog item and select the option to link on drop. Now, as you can see, as I drop these out, these bolt assemblies will now all be linked as is indicated by the highlight. The final feature I want to demonstrate, and is especially useful in the event that you have used catalog items without the link on drop feature, IronCAD now has the ability to do a search with an option to select all. So I'm going to copy that information, go to my search, and paste it and do a search. Once that's done, I can select the option to select all and right click and create link. And that quickly, all of these specific bolt assemblies are now linked. Next, let's talk about inserting assemblies using the new feature for how IronCAD can import these assemblies into an existing model. In previous versions of IronCAD, when you imported an assembly, the entire scene structure would be brought in, as can be seen in this example. One big disadvantage of this is when using some of IronCAD Mechanical's automated features, these features cannot differentiate between what we want to design and what is there for reference only. In the 2024 release, IronCAD now offers several different options. So let's delete this assembly and show you what different options are now available. The first thing I want to discuss is how the setup of the scene tree affects this new feature. As you can see in this example, we have our entire model collapsed down into one assembly. In this example, we have the scene tree expanded, and I will show you in a few minutes why this is important. Going back to the main model, we are going to select the option to insert part assembly. We will start with the collapsed version of the model first. What you will now see in 2024 is two different options for how we want to insert the additional model. The first option is standard, and that works exactly the same as it has in previous versions. What we want to do is select the option for limited. Limited is going to allow us to import this as reference only, and as you can see in the dialog, there is no editing. We will go ahead and give this a few seconds to import. As you can see in the scene tree, the assembly is now just one item with reference to the external file. It does not allow us to click below the assembly level or make any modifications. It is there literally for reference only. Let's delete that now and look at our second setup with the expanded scene tree. Again, standard works the same way as previous versions with one exception. If I select standard, I do now have the option to select just one part of the assembly to insert. However, I am still faced with the same situation of an expandable scene tree with parts that I may not want to interact with. So let's go ahead and insert the assembly using the new limited feature. What you will see here is if I select the default configuration, it will bring up the scene tree, allowing me to select what assembly I want to insert in the same way as standard but without the scene tree. The other option is that in this case, I did create a configuration of the exact parts I want to import. Going back to the model, let's delete this assembly. I will select the option to import part assembly, select my file to import, and my option for limited. And what you will see is that IronCAD gives me the option to select the configuration. I will select my tie-in configuration, select OK, and now all I get is what was visible in that configuration. So with 2024, we now have much more control over how we can bring external files into a model. What I would like to demonstrate now is a very useful tool for adding features to sheet metal flat patterns. This can be very helpful as an example when rolling sheet metal. Oftentimes, fabricators will want to add extra stock and trim the excess so that they get a truly round part. This comes in handy because during the rolling process, there is always a flat spot at the two ends due to the orientation of the rolls. You can see in this example a typical roller setup for rolling a tank shell. What you will always encounter is a flat spot before the material actually touches all of the rollers. When finished, this will not give a perfectly round tank. What fabricators will do is add extra length to each end and trim off that flat section so they have a truly round tank when done. So let's look at an example of this. On this project, we have 96-inch diameter tank shells that need to be rolled. If we look at the flat pattern without any additional stock added, we have a length of 3¾ inches. But we know that we want to have a truly round tank, so we need to go ahead and add extra length to each end. To do this, we will first unfold the tank shell. And now we can add our extra stock to each end, which I will make 6 inches long. We will go ahead and undo our unfold, and when we come back to our drawing and update, you will see the flat pattern is now 312¾ In past versions of IronCAD, if you did this and did any updates to the shell, that additional material would be removed. Now in 2024, IronCAD will keep that additional material regardless of any updates. This next feature has been implemented to help with the quoting process for sheet metal projects. You will find under the sheet metal ribbon bar an option for the new rapid quotation feature. We will select our two assemblies and then select the new quotation feature. This will bring up the quotation dialog box from which we can begin to calculate our cost. By selecting the extract data option, we can get a list of all the sheet metal parts and the necessary data for our quote. I won't get into every column, but everything that is needed to get a price can be found in this chart. You have your material and your thickness, you have your blank size, and very importantly, you also have the spray area, which is the linear inches or millimeters of the edges that the machine will need to cut. We can then select the option to export our data to an Excel spreadsheet. Once we have this, we can now create any formulas we need to create our final quote. You will see currently that the list does not combine linked parts. This will be enhanced in a future release to combine these, so there is just one line item. The intention is also to add costs so that the process of quoting sheet metal will be much quicker. Finally, let's review some of the new features in the 2D environment. The first enhancement involves the creation of just one sheet using the bulk drawing creation tool. In the past, IronCAD would always create a first sheet with the whole scene and then the sheet that we want. With the new enhancement, it is now possible to create just the sheet that we want. To do this, first make sure the option to use main scene is unselected. Then we pick our template and click OK. You can see now we get just the sheet that we wanted. This will take us to our next enhancement, which is very handy when creating broken views. In previous versions, you would have to fix each section line individually. Now it is possible to change one, first we'll make a couple changes here, then we'll go ahead and create our broken lines, select our inherit broken views, and finish. So first let's go ahead and scale our views, and we'll rescale our isometric. And as I mentioned, we can adjust one line, right click, and select the option to align all. What is very handy is that this does not just work on the length, but also works on the zigzag details as well. We have also introduced a new feature for adding additional projection views. With this drawing, if I wanted to add some additional isometric views, I simply right click, select the projection view option, and that quickly I have created new views to more clearly show how this assembly should look. The next enhancement is very handy. When you have a lot of sheets in a 2D drawing and you need to move from one to another quickly. In the past, you had to use the left and right arrows to scroll through the drawings. Now, by holding the control key and selecting one of those arrows, you will now get a list of drawings and can quickly select the one you want to go to. The final enhancement we will talk about today, and keep in mind that there are many more enhancements we have not covered, is the ability to define additional styles and layers to transfer from the model to the drawing. In this example, we have a plate that has drilled and countersunk holes. It will be laser cut, but all we want the laser to do is cut the outer profile. So what we want to do is go into the properties for the feature. We select the custom tab, and this is where we will define the new layer. Let's call this layer drill, and we'll add the value yes. Keep in mind that these fields are case sensitive. So we'll add that, click OK, and next we will go to our drawing to add the new layer. We do this by selecting our styles and layers. We will add to our available layers, drill, and use the layer color on draw and click OK. Next, we go to our custom property mapping, which is where we will add this new mapping layer. We will call it drill. Our property value is yes. We will select our drill layer. In this case, I want to go ahead and use a dashed line and add the value and click OK, and you will see that that is now added. We'll click OK, update views on sheet, and you will see that these are now highlighted green and will not be cut on our laser. Let me add that this feature is very powerful, and I did a quick demonstration. With this enhancement, it is possible to add multiple new layers, and it can be used on features as well as parts. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you are enjoying the 2024 release as much as myself.